The story I am going to tell is the story of transformation. My name is Elba Raquel, and I am an illustrator. As a student, we were always expected to accurately represent form and light. This is a self-portrait, and yet I have my hand held up to my face because my identity at the time were my rings. I used to wear many, many rings. Here's another self-portrait done from a photograph. And yet I couldn't tell the story of myself. I had to tell the story of the masks that I used to collect, along with the admiration that I felt towards these Mexican relics. As you can see, this is very representational, and this piece is very two-dimensional. Now I'm playing with the flat surface, the design, the color, the composition, and everything that goes along with storytelling and symbolism. I've always had a fascination with flat two-dimensional work, the work that you find in logos and old ancient artwork, and I knew that I had to mix them. I was never satisfied being completely representational, and I was never satisfied being 100% two-dimensional. This piece was not only transformational in my style, because I was blending the 2D with the 3D, but it was also transformational in that I was allowing myself to step away from reality and portray emotion through the people by simply changing the color of their skin. The color of their skin no longer had to be tied to reality, and I was allowing myself to step away into another realm, a realm that goes beyond what our eyes can see. Erykah Badu also went through her own personal musical transformation. When she started her career, she had her hair tied up in a wrap, and as she began to express herself and her music began to transform, her hair became unrestrained, much like her music, which is what I was trying to do through my art. And that's where I left my university studies. In 2009, I continued to play around with the 2-dimension and the 3-dimension through a series of paintings depicting the life of the yoga instructor. And then I disappeared from the art world for 4 years to start a family. In 2013, my husband was asked to do a cover. Under a tight deadline, he asked me to help him create this cover. It was a Valentine's edition, and we completed it in 3 hours. This piece reawakened what I had put away. I could no longer sit back and not create. I had to create. I was back, and it felt good to be back. Instantly, the amount of creativity that just resurfaced was overwhelming. I wrote and illustrated a children's book dealing with the issues of bullying and what it means to become your own personal hero. This is Abigail, the main character, but that project had to be put on hold. I was asked to be in a gallery, and I felt the urge to explore something that I had not explored before. So I started playing around with seeds, herbs, and mixing real 3-dimensional objects into my paintings. I took on a more cartoony look to my characters because of the children's book work that I had done, but I could never sacrifice the symbolic nature of my storytelling. These pieces reflect the inner sun, the energy that we have within us, and how it differs from individual to individual. Everything from the design to the actual seeds used in the piece reflect a little bit about their personality. Creativity comes at all times, and because I was commuting to San Francisco, I didn't always have my paints and my supplies. So out of necessity came my digital painting. I started painting digitally because I carried my computer everywhere I went. As a student, I had sworn off digital painting, but because it was so convenient and it allowed me to create anywhere I wanted, I started creating more digital work. At the same time, I began acknowledging the issues that were important to me and my community. This piece and the following piece depict what it's like to be a minority living in the United States. At this point, style was no longer a concern. I was doing what felt natural, which allowed me to really focus on what it was that I had to say. It allowed me to take the issues that I cared about and really think about what I wanted to put out as my message. And then, late 2013, the great leader Nelson Mandela passed. and I put my projects on hold. There are events in this world that are so monumental that you cannot let them go, which is why I decided to pay a tribute to one of the world's greatest leaders, putting an end to 2013. In 2014, I suddenly realized I had a style, and I had found my voice as a visual artist. The pieces you are about to see were done in 2014. They are heavily influenced by the issues going on in the world today. This has been my new mission. In 2011, the Fukushima power plant exploded in Japan. Ever since then, radioactive chemicals have been leaking from the source, and it has now reached the West Coast, but people choose to ignore it or deny the reality. The majority of the people are unaware. Immigrant women have always been faced with the cruel reality of sexual harassment. However, their fear of deportation and getting separated from their family due to their illegal status stops them from seeking help. Instead, they carry the burden of what was done to them in silence. Our ancestors were born free, but that was all robbed from them by the new people. Through physical and psychological torture, the burden of forced religion has not only resulted in genocide, but has also killed the spirit of the traditional cultures. The journey that I have been on to get to the place to where I am today as a visual artist has been tedious. It is my mission to keep creating artwork and editorials that are relevant to today, to create dialogue amongst people that will one day spark change for a better world.